Let's roll. Here we go.
Expectation is greater than the appreciation.
Just different leagues.
Week 9 of the 2025 college football season is officially in the books, and what a week it was. Full of winners, losers, and athletic departments going even more broke from coaching buyouts. As if Colorado State wasn't already broke enough. The sport continues to spin off its axis. The world is truly changing when you realize that Vanderbilt is hosting College Game Day against Missouri. Upsets shook the playoff picture, transfer quarterbacks continue to be the talk of ESPN, and a few fan bases started calculating buyout math before Halloween candy even hit the shelves. It's been chaos, comedy, and pure college football energy, all wrapped into one weekend. So let's dissect Week 9 to find out who's going to get king-size chocolate bars for this Halloween, or who's gonna get dots. Fuck dots. Friday night in the Sandman Dome was everything you'd expect from a Virginia Tech home game. Rowdy, loud, and filled with people way too hyped for a team that's so down bad, they've only got one turkey testicle left. The Hokies faithful brought the noise anyway, and it seemed to fuel Kyron Drones, who torched Cal's defense with the same read option run over and over again, while Justin Wilcox just stood there and watched it happen. By the end of the night, Tech had piled up 357 rushing yards, turning Cal's defense, whose tackling resembled sticks of butter, into a highlight reel for all the wrong reasons. On the other side, JKS, a program legend in the making, was let down repeatedly by his receivers. Outside of Jacob DeJesus, nobody could catch a cold. Somehow, in clutch time, Cal found themselves in a position to steal the ball game late, lining up for a 49-yard field goal to win in regulation.
Not close.
What else could you hope for with both teams trying to lose other than chaos overtime? The story of the second half continued into this extra time frame. Tech ran the same 3 plays and the Calgorithm did nothing to stop it. The good news here is that said Calgorithm cannot die because it was never alive to begin with.
Downfield, contested throw, incomplete, no flags. Virginia Tech wins it in double overtime.
In the end, it was another heartbreaker. Another night of frustration for JKS, who's probably eyeing the transfer portal, and another step towards the most predictable outcome imaginable. 6-6 for Cal yet again. Just fire Wilcox already, it did wonders for Tech! The UCLA death run finally came to an ugly end in Bloomington, where Kirk Cignetti's Indiana squad unleashed a full-on bloodletting that reminded everyone why he might be the most ruthless coach in America. The football gods have awoken something amidst a generation of football aides from the same university that's causing this chaos. So much for the Bruins running the table, Cignetti took one look at their recent momentum and quickly put that to bed, before orchestrating one of the most lopsided demolitions of the season. Just like all of his previous games. Fernando Mendoza looked every bit of the Heisman finalist people are hyping him up to be, carving up a UCLA defense that looked gassed and helpless, while the Bruins offense offered nothing in return. Nico reverted to his natural state of just kind of existing, and without a run game to balance anything, UCLA never stood a chance. By halftime, it was clear that this was less of a football game and more ritual sacrifice. The beating shall continue until Indiana holds the #1 ranking. And for UCLA, all that's left now is to turn the page and start a coaching search. I don't think promoting the femboy is going to do much good. Remember when Syracuse was having fun with their 2025 season? Yeah, that ended well before their trip to Atlanta. Georgia Tech shrugged off a sluggish first quarter, as they always tend to do, and turned into a full-blown powerhouse the rest of the way, led by the Haynes King masterclass. King torched the Orange for 300 passing yards and had another 90 on the ground, carving up the defense per his usual playstyle. Because if nobody else is going to do anything, you best guarantee the King will lead the squad. Meanwhile, Ricky Collins is still trying to fill the crater Steve the Jellybean left behind. He's improving, sure, but that's a low bar to clear based on the shit stain he put out in previous weeks. As usual, Georgia Tech's defense gave up a ton of yards but somehow kept the score manageable, continuing their strange magic trick of bend but don't break football. With the offense firing like this, the Piss Jackets might actually win out the regular season. They're 8-0 now, rolling through the ACC like a wrecking ball, and if this continues, not only might Georgia Tech head into the Dome 11-0, but Pep Boys might have to start celebrating with a 50% off sale. Let the King cook. In a top 15 SEC showdown with storylines and shirtless frat boys, Ole Miss marched into Norman with one goal in mind. A plea from the fans for Lane Kiffin to stay put and not bolt for Florida. Trinidad Chambliss once again led the Rebels' offense with poise, efficiency, and just enough swagger to make Oklahoma's defense crumble in key moments. Meanwhile, John Mateer went like every other Brent Venables quarterback and lived off the game plan of throwing sideline fades 10 yards into the bleachers on crucial downs. The whole Mateer is the best short and mid-range passer in the game narrative really fell apart in this one. Down by 8 with minimal time left, Oklahoma had the chance to drive for the tie. If only they could resist being themselves.
Mateer steps into the throw. That's not going to reach the end zone, and it's batted down.
Well, they could not. Mateer cemented his reputation as one of the least clutch quarterbacks in modern memory, and somewhere in Pullman, Washington is a faint smile. Ole Miss improves to 7-1, earning their first road win over a ranked SEC foe under Kiffin, who made sure to let everyone know about it. Oklahoma drops to 6-2, staring down a brutal closing schedule and fading playoff hopes. Oh boy, this year looks a lot like last year, doesn't it? But the biggest question of the night wasn't about rankings. It's whether Lane Kiffin will stay in Oxford long enough to see how far this team can go. I'm sure if they don't make the playoffs or dare drop another game, he'll be sticking around until the end. So this is supposed to be the ACC's dark horse? Bill Belichick is still stuck in the buck chair, and yet you still can't go beyond mid. Good news for you is that the other side is offensively glued to the floor. Both teams stumbled out of the gate with sluggish offenses, and Tony Elliott once again managed to make his own 6-1 team look like the underdog against a program that's falling apart. The second half was a total blackout for both offenses. No points, no rhythm, no signs of life. Just two different teams shitting themselves to see which one can shit hard enough to lose. It's like when you have to purchase the microtransaction for offense by purchasing the ACC network. The alternative is the agonizing reality you're in now, a chaos overtime that somehow managed to be even uglier. Virginia opened with a methodical drive capped by a 1-yard Jamari Taylor touchdown to go up 17-10. North Carolina responded with a 9-yard strike from Gio Lopez to Davion Ghazi to make it 17-16. And then Belichick used whatever is left of his old man balls to go for the win with a 2-point conversion.
Snap, Lopez to his left, throws, it's caught, and Hall did not get in, and Virginia wins.
Never in doubt, huh, Cavs? Even the commentators sounded ready to pack it in. Virginia escaped with the win, improving to 7-1, whilst North Carolina falls to 2-5. And yet, despite the record, nobody's buying the Cavaliers as a real contender. Maybe they go 11-1, enter the playoffs, and only lose by 40. That'd be a win in my book. You could feel it coming. That very bad feeling. You've been feeling it since the start, and it's finally here, Bulls. You came in looking sharp, and quarterback Byron Brown was electric, piling up 390 total yards as South Florida looked ready to solidify themselves as the AAC's consistent frontrunner. But AAC and consistency are polar opposites. It's all unraveled thanks to some classic Alice Golesh decision-making. Channeling his inner Josh Heupel, Golesh turned down an easy field goal inside the 10 on 4th down to call a doomed pass play instead of taking points to make it a 2-score game. Memphis, behind a clutch Brendan Lewis performance, pounced on the opportunities, storming back with a 17-point fourth quarter capped by a 10-yard Lewis touchdown to Cortez Braham Jr., and out on a successful 2-point conversion with just over a minute left. Down by 3, South Florida still had a shot, driving into makeable field goal range before another baffling play call pushed them back 10 yards thanks to holding. That turned a comfortable attempt of a field goal into a 52-yarder, which Nico Grammatica did what all Nicos do best.
Down, kick away. It is no good!
End all hope. Welcome back, Anarchy. Memphis completes the comeback, claiming its first ranked home win in years and vaulting in the polls. Golesh's Florida coaching rumors probably took a big hit right there, and the AAC, or rather the G6 in total, is in complete disarray. You wanted to join the Big 12, you best learn about it early. Nebraska and Northwestern has become one of the Big Ten sneaky good annual matchups. Not a rivalry, not a battle for national relevance for sure, but always entertaining football. This year was definitely no different. The Huskers have competent football again for the first time since their Big 12 run, which definitely helps. Nebraska jumped out early behind a 9-yard Emmett Johnson touchdown run and led 7-0 after the first quarter, with Northwestern only managing a pair of Jack Olsen field goals to make it 7-6 at halftime. Preston Stone, true to form, did little to change his reputation for inconsistency. He's like if Jeff Sims was forced to start for Arizona State. the second half swung wildly. Kenneth Williams took the opening kickoff of the third quarter 95 yards to the house. But the Purple Kitties clawed back behind a breakout ground performance from Komolafe, aided of course by a little Big Ten ref ball to tie things up 21 in the fourth. Yet when it mattered, Nebraska's team plus the most exciting whites in college football, quote-unquote, delivered again, grinding out a 13-play, 64-yard drive capped by Johnson's second touchdown of the day with under 3 minutes left to go. Northwestern had one last shot, but Stone being Stone tells you everything you need to know. Maybe those stadium renovations can hold off until you have the funds for a functional quarterback. Nebraska held on for a clutch 28-21 win and became bowl eligible for the second straight year.
All right! All right!
It certainly hits, but not nearly as much as it did last year. And Matt Rule has already done more in Lincoln than he ever did with the Panthers. But if nothing else, at least you're not stuck in this spot. Dear Lord, get this horrendous terror of football off my screen. 2 0-4 Big Ten teams, Rutgers and Purdue, somehow managed to produce both comedy and tragedy in equal measure. The Soilermakers actually looked alive early, jumping to a 10-0 lead and later stretching it to 17-7, only to completely abandon the run for the diarrhea of a passing attack because that's what Purdue does. Rutgers clawed back with a 17-play, 85-yard drive late in the second quarter to steal momentum leading into halftime. From there, Athon Krakatoa of all guys turned it to a one-man show, throwing for 359 yards, running for a touchdown, and connecting with KJ Duff time and time again, in what will go down as the Duff Legacy game. Despite Rutgers outgaining Purdue significantly in yards, plus Purdue's 1-for-9 disaster on third downs and their uncanny ability to make clutch failure look like an art form, with under 5 minutes left, Purdue somehow, someway took a 24-21 lead. But Rutgers tied it with a field goal in the final minute, setting us up for what should be another chaos overtime. Or, well,
Be aggressive for a field goal.
Ryan Brown batted in the air, he catches it, and then he fumbles it, and it's recovered by Rutgers. Jet Elad recovered it. Patel for the win. And he got it.
He had
Rutgers.
seen
An unserious finish for an unserious team. And the Scarlet Knights finally notched their first Big Ten win of the season, while Purdue somehow found a brand new way to lose. Trust me, there's plenty more of those along the way. Welcome back to hell, otherwise known as the CW Network, where SMU and Wake Forest delivered a grudge match of pure defensive mayhem and offensive misery. The Horsies, still dominating an ACC play and still have yet to lose a regular season ACC game, came to Winston-Salem expecting another step towards conference supremacy, but instead found themselves completely shut down by a surprisingly stingy Wake defense. The Dead Deacons even led 10-6 at halftime after a 12-yard Robbie Ashford touchdown pass to Ine Finele, while Wake Forest passing the football like a real team. Only on the CW, SMU's high-powered offense vanished as Kevin Jennings still couldn't find his peak from last season, managing just 246 total yards and a pitiful 8 first downs in a game that featured 8 turnovers, multiple missed kicks, and a mind-numbing 17 punts. SMU briefly surged in the third quarter when Shaddai Clayton Johnson scored from 6 yards out, but the ensuing extra point was blocked, leaving them up only 12-10. Wake fumbled late and looked dead, but SMU's boneheaded play calling handed the ball right back to him. Then, in the most ACC-CW moment imaginable, Wake went on a 12-second miracle drive. A 25-yard dart from Deshaun Purdy to Kareem Johnson set up a 50-yard field goal from Michael Calvert as time expired.
Snap, hold, kick, did he get it? Did he? Did he? He did! And unbelievably!
The kick hurt around like a block or two because nobody was watching, but SMU's 20-game regular season conference win streak came to a collapse, ruining their shot at hosting College Game Day and giving it back to the Big 12. Pony down. So here we are now with the only undefeated ACC teams left standing, Virginia and Georgia Tech. Sounds about right to me. At this point, it's hard to imagine Kansas ever winning the Sunflower Showdown again. I was still shitting my pants the last time they actually won this game, and now I witnessed them do it every season. Do they even prepare for this game? Kansas State once again dominated their in-state rival, led by Avery Johnson, who went 11 of 17 for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air, while adding 2 more on the ground in a breakout performance. J.C. Brown torched the Jayhawks for 160 yards, including a momentum-killing 78-yard touchdown that broke the game wide open. Meanwhile, Jalen Daniels once again proved to be a liability in this rivalry, as the Jayhawk offense fell face flat and died and their defense couldn't keep up. Somehow, Kansas State played even better in the second half, a rare twist for the Wildcats, while Kansas looked as lifeless as ever. For a program with such a cheerful logo, the Jayhawks sure do find a way to continue to deliver depressingly predictable football. The drought against K-State drags on, and people born the streak began are now nearly old enough to go to college themselves so they can watch the Jayhawks lose this game every year. It's starting to feel generational. Lance Leipold is now 0-6 against both major rivals, and the talk in Lawrence is getting pretty ugly. They're paying nearly $7 million a year for a coach who collapses in every big game and can't even secure bowl eligibility, and it's frankly unacceptable. I'm sure someone in the SEC has a bridge to sell you. Welcome to the SEC Conference Toilet Bowl, Auburn versus Arkansas, where chaos, misery, and self-sabotage reign supreme. Auburn actually opened strong, with Cam Coleman hauling in a spectacular one-handed 23-yard touchdown the first drive to go up 7-0. But by halftime, the Tigers trailed 21-10 after Arkansas's Kane Walker flipped momentum with an 89-yard pick six. It looked like more pain was coming for Auburn fans, as if they weren't already numb to it because of Jackson Arnold. Then came the switch, as we know, with Arkansas. Self-mutilation. Through a new man taking the ship and transfer Ashton Daniels, he sparked life into the Tigers' offense, leading 3 straight scoring drives while running back Jeremiah Cobb put together a career day. Arkansas, meanwhile, did what Arkansas does best: turned their choke jobs into an art form. So much for turnover-free football as they had against A&M. The Razorbacks beat the Razorbacks again, capped by 2 fourth-quarter interceptions snagged by Rayshawn Pleasant as Auburn's defense finally sealed the deal. The Barns somehow won this game despite benching their starter against the worst defense in the league, snapping a 4-game skid and earning their first SEC win of the season. Though the bad news is, that probably means Hugh Freeze is keeping his job quite a bit longer. Why delay the inevitable at this point? As for Arkansas, Bobby P is definitely not riding again. Unless it's straight out of Fayetteville. Both fan bases can now officially turn their attention to basketball at least. South Carolina has ruined porta potties for me, and Alabama has ruined just about everything else, and this game was the perfect storm of both. Coming off of 4 straight ranked SEC wins, Alabama walked straight into the perfect draft game in Columbia, where South Carolina came out swinging and actually had the Tide on the ropes early. Lenora Sellers finally realized Nick Harbor is, in fact, an unstoppable weapon and started feeding him the ball. For a fleeting moment, it looked like the Gamecocks might actually pull it off, until they remembered who they were and embraced the suck. Alabama, ever the embodiment of bullshit, clawed tooth and nail, and it's funny because they only have one tooth, behind Ty Simpson's 253 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and a momentum-swinging pick 6 from Deshaun Jones. Even then, Bama's receivers briefly turned into cows, dropping everything in sight. While the game tied late and South Carolina students started creeping down towards the field ready for a rush, you already knew it was over. For them. Sure enough, with 2:16 left, Jermaine Bernard hauled in a 4-yard touchdown, and Alabama's 2-point conversion tied it. Shane Beamer, in true Beamer fashion, thought he could drive for the win instead of settling for the field goal. As if a Mike Shula-style offense was about to march downfield against Alabama. They were cooked either way. Alabama got the ball back again and ended whatever happiness there was left for the Gamecock Nation. The Cocks definitely showed flashes, but turnovers and poor decisions doomed them again. Cocktober was a real letdown this season, wasn't it? Alabama stayed perfect in SEC play and firmly in the title race, while South Carolina picked up yet another gut punch loss. Beamer's seat is heating up, but hey, at least they're still unbeatable in practice. Priorities! College game day rolled into Nashville for what was supposed to be a statement Saturday for both teams. But instead, Missouri and Vanderbilt delivered a low-scoring slog that left everyone wondering why they'd even turn on the TV for this garbage. The first quarter was proof of that, as neither team could figure out how to move an inch down the field on each other. The Tigers took a 3-0 lead in the second quarter before Vanderbilt tied it at halftime at the 38-yard field goal. And from there, both offenses sputtered like they'd forgotten the playbook or they took Mike Shula's. Diego Pavia's Heisman hopes left somewhere in the Nashville parking lot under a traffic jam. Take the dadgum jewelry off, this performance wasn't worth wearing a t-shirt. Just when it looked like the zoo could take advantage of everything that's happening to him, disaster came. If you thought it was bad enough with Sam Horn, Prebulas carted off due to an ankle injury that could very well leave them with true freshman Matt Zollers as their only hope for the rest of 2025. To his credit, he stepped in and briefly gave Mizzou life, tossing a touchdown to tie it 10-10 early in the fourth. But Vanderbilt, despite 8 penalties and season lows in yardage, found a way. Pavia capped a gritty drive by diving in from 1 yard out with under 2 minutes left to play. Missouri had one last miracle shot in hand. A Hail Mary where their dreams all lied.
Zollers, now this could be the last play. To the end zone. At the goal line, is it caught?
For the review, the pass was caught, but short of the goal line. The game is over.
Inches short of the end zone and one of the most heartbreaking finishes imaginable is about as Mizzou football as it can get. Vandy escaped 17-10, improving to 7-1 for their best start since World War II at the latest, while Missouri, once a playoff hopeful, might have just fallen short of everything. By an inch. Uh-oh, trouble in the Big 12. Who am I kidding here? There's always some bullshit going on over here. Iowa State couldn't have scripted a better start, as on the very first play, Rocco Beck launched a 75-yard touchdown bomb to Brennis Kildson, putting the Cyclones up 7-0 off the bat. Everything seemed to go their way early, with Carson Hansen carving up BYU's defense on the ground, and the Cougars looked lost in the storm of the Cyclones. But then, BYU flipped the switch. The Bear took over and awoke from the slumber, going 22 of 35 for 307 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and another on the ground, while receivers Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts shredded Iowa State's sandpaper condom-ass secondary. After that opening drive, Brock Purdy 2.0 completely unraveled, easily his worst performance as a Cyclone, as mistake after mistake handed BYU free momentum. The Cougars erupted even further in the fourth quarter somehow, scoring twice in just 42 seconds and sealing it with a pick six from his safety. Capitalizing on Iowa State's 4 turnovers to pull away in dominant fashion, BYU rolled to 8-0 for the second straight season, a first in program history, climbing into the top 10 with Miami and taking full control of the Big 12, at least until they inevitably lose for no reason like they did with Kansas. They desperately need their upcoming bye before a brutal stretch ahead. Indiana exposed Illinois for the frauds that they are, and Washington simply confirmed it. The Huskies came out guns a-blazing, jumping ahead 14-3 in the first quarter behind 2 short yardage touchdown passes from DeMond Williams to Desmond Roebuck. Illinois briefly rallied in the second quarter as Luke Altmaier tossed 2 touchdown passes to give Illinois a 17-14 lead, but Washington struck back in the most Pac-12 ad play I've ever seen, as Denzel Boston connected with Jonah Coleman to retake a 21-17 advantage. Speaking of which, I'm not sure where Boston came from, but he put up a party this night. From that point forward, Jed the Fish's Huskies dominated. Boston delivered a career day in catches and yards, while Coleman continued his march towards a program record for rushing touchdowns. Washington's offense was ruthlessly efficient, scoring on all 6 red zone trips and turning 6 of 8 drives into touchdowns, while Illinois sputtered with turnovers and defensive lapses. The Illini defense that once flustered USC looked completely lost despite 2 weeks to prepare, and any playoff hopes evaporated in Seattle. Washington rolls to bowl eligibility, while Illinois falls to 5-3 and about 50 points shy of being competitive with the nation's best. The weight of missed opportunities now sits squarely on Burt Bielema. It's no longer Fraud Watch, it's Fraud Television. This week's version of the boat didn't just spring a leak, it completely vanished. Wipe off the foundation it stood upon, against an unranked team no less. Minnesota's trip to Iowa City turned into yet another Floyd of Rosedale nightmare, as Iowa dismantled the Gophers in a game that redefined bare minimum football. The Hawkeyes scored in all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams, in what Mark Gronowski called a true display of complimentary football. If the winner is whipping out that phase, you're not just cooked, you're deep fried. At one point in the first half, Iowa held a jaw-dropping 166-1 edge in total yardage. Drake Lindsey looked existentially confused, and that's being generous because the dude was making everything the Iowa offense was doing look elite by comparison. Iowa's backup-led offense somehow found the end zone, proving that even optional quarterbacks can work in Kirk Ferentz's system against PJ Fleck. With the win, the Hawkeyes retain Floyd of Rosedale for the 10th time in the last 11 meetings and secure bowl eligibility. They also extend their streak to 9 straight seasons, allowing fewer than 20 points per game on average, at least for the time being. For Minnesota, it was another collapse in this rivalry, and another reminder that PJ Fleck just can't beat Iowa in any way, shape, or form. 7 wins, 5 losses, you could taste it, Fleck. No action was allowed in Pullman on Saturday. After a quiet first quarter, the Cougars exploded for 21 second quarter points to take full control, heading into halftime with a 21-0 lead. Toledo finally responded with a 24-yard touchdown pass from Tucker Gleason to Junior Vandeross, but that would be all they do, and fittingly so, since Vandeross is pretty much all Toledo has these days. John Eckhouse powered the offense both through the air and on the ground, throwing for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns while also adding 74 rushing yards, though a pair of interceptions kept things from being sustainable enough to fully run away with the game. Gotta make things interesting after all, cause you're Washington State. The Cougar defense dominated, limiting Toledo's typically dangerous rushing attack to just 61 yards. For a team that entered this game as an underdog, Washington State looked anything but, improving to 4-4 on the season and setting up a potentially late season surge heading into their showdown with Oregon State in the Pac-12 championship. Just when you think that we're gone, the bells are starting to ring again for Dave Doran's hot seat. A week after barely surviving Syracuse, the Panthers look sharp and disciplined, cutting down the penalties and protection issues that plagued them earlier this year. The newest addition of Kenny Pickett and Mason Hines-Schnell was about as electric as you can be as a true freshman, throwing for a school freshman record of 423 yards. This solidified his NIL deal as a little bigger more than likely. The Wolfpack briefly showed life when Huddlewood Smothers broke loose for a 65-yard touchdown run in the second quarter, but he was bottled up the rest of the way, finishing with just 86 yards as NC State's defense again fell apart, especially in the secondary. Pitt's dominance did come at a cost, as the injury bug got another. Desmond Reed left late in the third quarter with a leg injury, casting a shadow over an otherwise perfect day. Still, the Panthers are bowl eligible and unbeaten since Schnell took over. Makes that early season loss to West Virginia sting even more in hindsight. I don't think the pain from that football IBS is ever gonna leave your minds. Texas Tech may not rule the Big 12 anymore, but they still clearly own at least a little stock in it, especially after their first Big 12 shutout in 20 years. So long ago that some current Red Raiders weren't even alive for that one. Despite a few early game hiccups, including fans getting reminded that tortilla throwing is now illegal under a new Big 12 rule, Tech's defense came to play, racking up 69 total tackles and smothering an Oklahoma State offense that looked like it was searching for ways to score negative points. Will Hammond's knee injury in the first half could have derailed things, but Mitch Griffiths stepped in and managed the game efficiently, helping blow it open by the third quarter. Meanwhile, the Cowboys cycled through Sam Jackson V, their third different starter of the season, who offered little more than previous as the offense flatlined once again. Then again though, there's so many things wrong with the brain-eating amoeba that I don't think anything or anyone is fixing what became a 2025 for them. The win moves Texas Tech back on solid ground after losing, while Oklahoma State does what they usually do and will do absolutely nothing to fix this problem, for it cannot be fixed. They also, as a twisted gift from the depths of the toilet, became the first Power 4 team eliminated from bowl eligibility, a stunning low for a program that once prided itself on mediocrity. Get out! And as you would have expected, the Red Raiders did not go through this game unscathed. It's the only thing at this point that could derail as good of a season as you've had. It's a bad year to be a coach named Dave, and Dave Aranda's Baylor squad just confirmed why. Once known for his defensive brilliance, this entire season has been nothing short of everything he isn't. The entire fan base once again got hoodwinked and bamboozled when they got beat down in Nipple Stadium, as Cincinnati gashed the Bears for 265 rushing yards. Did they try and stop it? No. Baylor fans, now seemingly more invested in the coaching carousel than the scoreboard, watched as their high-flying Sawyer Robinson, who entered the game leading the nation in passing yards and touchdowns, was held to a season-low 137 yards by the Bearcat defense. Cincinnati flirted with disaster by the third quarter through another attempted choke job that briefly opened the door for a Baylor rally. But Brendan Sorsby's 23-yard touchdown run capped a grinding 12-play, 75-yard drive to ice the game with 6 minutes left. Hey look, contrary to the Nebraska game, they can be clutch. With the victory, Cincinnati stays tied with BYU atop the Big 12 standings, and Scott Satterfield's turnaround season keeps her rolling. A far cry from the mess on the other sideline. Since Texas Tech has found their defense, the Bad News Bears have to fill the glass cannon void in the Big 12 somehow. Why is Texas still ranked? What exactly have they done to earn that other than John Mateer's broken hand? The question only gets louder after Mississippi State dominated most of the afternoon in what looked like the end of their 15-game SEC losing streak. Blake Shapen was surgical early, spreading the ball efficiently while the Bulldog run game churned on all cycles. Looked to everyone that Tom Herman football was truly back. But then, as if on cue, Texas's talent feed finally woke up, and Arch Manning turned into the quarterback he was always hyped to be, leading a furious late rally. Mississippi State's defense racked up 5 sacks and 12 tackles for loss, yet the Longhorns answered with 7 sacks of their own, including 4 in the final minutes of regulation. And oh god, oh here we go, chaos overtime. When Manning went down, backup Matthew Caldwell stepped in and calmly guided the offense, setting the stage for the Bulldogs' collapse. 3 straight bad passes later, and here State was once again in front of another clutch ball moment.
Shapen facing pressure, trying to get out of there. He can't! Texas ends the game with an Ethan Burke pressure.
And with the term clutch ball, they do like they always do and fall. Another heartbreaking, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory finish. Texas bullshits with an overtime win to become bowl eligible.
All right!
And impossibly still has a playoff path. While Mississippi State fell to 4-4 and 0-4 in SEC play, and worst of all, still has to live in Mississippi. They literally could have been undefeated right now if it weren't for their state IQ. By that, I mean the entire state. The roads we see nowadays aren't taking anyone home. Is it possible the Mountaineers have just given up on everything? It sure does look that way, as West Virginia sleepwalked through another conference game, realizing that as long as Oklahoma State exists, they'll never be the Big 12's true bottom feeder. Maybe it's the curse of Pitt. Beat them and you fall apart, because since that win, the Mountain Men have spiraled into the fires of the couch. Despite barely outgaining West Virginia by a yard, TCU made the most of every opportunity they had, as Josh Hoover continued his breakout season, throwing for 247 yards and 2 touchdowns while showing flashes of big boy football behind a TCU offensive line that looked determined to get him killed. Eric McAllister, targeted 18 times, hauled at 9 catches for 124 yards, providing the Horned Frogs offensive spark. Meanwhile, West Virginia's offense remains comatose as they have 5 straight losses, all featuring 17 or fewer points, with Scotty Fox being the lone bright spot of an otherwise joyless unit. Whatever Witch Rodriguez brought back to Morgantown, it's clearly not working. You probably should have stayed in the family business. Your contribution makes TCU bowl eligible.
All right!
And sends the Horned Frogs back probably to the same bowl game they go to every single year. So I was right. Wisconsin did, in fact, go broke somewhere recently, and yet somehow Luke Fickell is still employed after whatever this was. In a game that felt like LSD and being underwater, Oregon slogged through a battle against Wisconsin's defense in torrential rain, as Dante Moore managed just 86 passing yards before exiting in the third quarter with a facial injury. Nobody can escape the injury bug nowadays. Just ask the Badgers. Wisconsin, resembling Auburn if you removed half the roster via injury, continued their descent into offensive purgatory. Despite the Duckies starting painfully slow with just 21 yards of offense, backup quarterback Brock Thomas did enough to put the game out of reach, because if you're Wisconsin, any lead is out of reach. But the Badgers finally avoided their 3rd straight shutout when Hunter Simmons hit Lance Mason for a 2-yard touchdown with 7 minutes remaining, ending an 11-quarter scoring drought that almost became the stuff of Big Ten legend. Injuries and schedule strength might save Fickell's job, but not his dignity, while Oregon's win, a forgettable game against a broken team, does nothing to boost their national image. But survive and thrive's the name of the game. Quack and quack. So that start was about as ugly as the horrendous uniforms Miami trotted out. Seriously, what the actual shit is this supposed to be? It made the Florida Gator skin uniforms look decent in comparison, which is a very tall task. But somehow the Cardinals played up to the Canes early, looking poised to pull off an upset. Until the rain started, and then they instantly became catatonic. From there, Miami took full control, led by Carson Beck, who, believe it or not, did not throw an interception for once. Games like that come as rare as ACC championship appearances for the Canes. The Hurricanes methodically overwhelmed Stanford, piling up 400 yards of offense while holding Stanford to just around 100. Malachi Toney was everywhere, recording 138 all-purpose yards, including 73 on a pair of punt returns, and at this point, Miami should probably allocate 25% of their entire NAL budget to him. Despite the eventual blowout, this is somehow still the best Stanford team we've seen in years. And during the broadcast, Andrew Luck even praised Frank Reich's efforts as they search for a new long-term leader. Andrew Luck. But in true Mario Cristobal fashion, Miami kept things unnecessarily stupid before finally erupting, outscoring Stanford 35-0 in the second half to ensure bowl eligibility. The only blemish, star defensive lineman Akeem Mesidor missed the game, ending his streak of 19 straight starts. You're going to need him back to prevent the curse from starting back up again. The Aggies up to this point have somehow avoided the eventual battered Aggie collapse. They're heading into Death Valley, home of the LSU bullshit at night. The odds in every which way are stacked against them. As would be expected, the Tigers put up a huge fight in the first half. A&M found their offense riding the struggle bus, and Garrett Nussmeier was completing like one pass every so often. It turned into A&M being on the losing side going into the half. But then, for some unknown reason totally unrelated to the fact that LSU's coach is Brian Kelly, something happened to A&M.
Now, I'm really mad.
If the cameras had stuck around long enough, they might have caught Brian Kelly searching for an assistant to blame after yet another meltdown in Death Valley. Felt less like a win and more like a full-scale takeover. Marcel Reed put on a show, passing for 2 touchdowns and running for 2 more, as the Aggies erased whatever that deficit was and turned the second half into a statement of dominance on their end and a key to move on with LSU. It was the first time A&M had beaten LSU in Death Valley since they were banned from television, and in doing so, they improved to their best start since the '92 Aggies went 12-0 in the regular season. Meanwhile, Garrett Nussmeier was sacked 5 times and ultimately pulled with 6 minutes left, as the LSU offense completely imploded. So much for the 2019 offense coming back, huh? Former LSU strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt, fired by Kelly in 2021, had to be feeling very vindicated while being on the A&M staff. By the end, Aggie fans mockingly danced a call in Baton Rouge, and it was clear to everyone watching that LSU had reached Penn State levels of fraudulence, a national embarrassment of a program that's been wrecked beyond repair. For the Aggies, there's still one looming tradition to fear, but they'll have to lose out in order to fulfill the infamous 8-4 curse. A game like this proves one universal truth: no matter our differences, we can all agree that Brian Kelly sucks. The Golden Eagles season hit rock bottom in Louisville, as Bill O'Brien somehow managed to make an already broken program even worse, though the Cardinals fans didn't exactly enjoy the experience either. That's ACC football for you. Everyone's gotta suffer every now and then. The night began explosively when Isaac Brown ripped off a 73-yard run on the first play on his way to a career-high 205 yards and a touchdown on just 14 carries, later adding a 62-yard score before halftime. Miller Moss chipped in with 187 passing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, helping the Cardinals overcome 3 turnovers and a dismal 3-for-11 mark on 3rd down. For a while, it looked like Boston College might hang around. Grayson James threw for 244 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Eagles controlled the ball for nearly 24 minutes in the first half. But their offense completely stalled in the second half, capped by a typical Bill O'Brien moment to punt on 4th and 8 with under 5 minutes left. That conservative call backfired immediately, as Kajon Brown sealed the game with a 67-yard touchdown run. Louisville extends its streak as the only team in the country to score 24 or more points in every game for nearly 2 years. For now, the Jeff Brom letdown loss has simply been postponed by 1 more week, likely to debut on the CW. Boston College gets to join Oklahoma State in the piss realm, as they too are officially eliminated from bowl eligibility. Get out! 2 bitter rivals meet with 2 equally bitter offenses to show for it, and it was painful for everyone. Justice Haynes' return proved crucial, as the sophomore tailback ran for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Jordan Marshall added 110 yards and a score. The Wolverines once again showed they still can't throw the ball, with freshman Bryce Underwood struggling through another lackluster performance, though he avoided the costly mistakes that doomed his counterpart on the other side. For Michigan State, and tell me if you heard this one before, Aiden Childs had a messy night. If you watched him play, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Head coach Jonathan Smith's decision to open up the offense late only backfired, leaving his defense gassed and Childs forced into errors once Michigan took away his legs. The Spartans' drive stalled on a failed 4th and 3 at the Michigan 27 in the fourth quarter, a questionable decision instead of attempting a field goal to make it a one-possession game. Penalties piled up, the offense sputtered and destroyed themselves, and the defense wore down as the Spartans fell to yet another rivalry loss for the 4th season in a row. Michigan, for all its flaws and rebuilding woes, managed to cross the threshold into bowl eligibility. I'm just glad this one didn't end with a war inside of a tunnel. Behold, the reason Mark Stoops is closing in on the end of his job. It takes a lot to let Josh Heupel survive after going on the road at night, but who else but Kentucky to ensure that? Tennessee's high-octane offense and non-existent defense combined for yet another classic dumbass fight. Everyone, including Tennessee fans, wanted someone fired by the end of the day. Joey Aguilar torched Kentucky's defense, throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, but the Wildcats kept finding ways to get in striking distance despite the multiple turnovers. And that's what's so funny. It was Joey versus Tennessee's defense, because the Vols' D was only there for decoration. Aguilar needed to keep scoring in order to keep the Wildcats away. The Coal Miners' offense, somehow alive for the first time in nearly 2 years, scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns in a game for the first time since November of 2023, with Cutter Boley tossing a freshman record-breaking 5 touchdowns against the reeling Tennessee defense. Thankfully, this is Kentucky we're talking about, illustrated by this play here.
They complete it to Gilmore, tries to reverse field, and the entire pile will make it a lot closer, and the ball came loose, and still loose. Finally scooped up by Macklin, and now Tennessee's got a shot at it.
Once that happened, it was all over. Kentucky's defense couldn't contain the Vols' explosive plays, surrendering several long scoring strikes that flipped momentum again and again. The result not only pushed Tennessee to bowl eligibility, but also intensified the pressure on Mark Stoops' hot seat, as the Wildcat season spirals into further frustration. Dear Lord, we need Jermon McCoy back. Talk about an emotional roller coaster for the Sun Devils. Arizona State's night unraveled as Houston quietly continued its rise under Willie Fritz. Playing without Jordan Tyson, ASU's offense was doomed from the start, while Connor Walgreens led a methodical, balanced Houston attack, rushing for 2 touchdowns and throwing for another, with tight end Tanner Koziel racking up 100 receiving yards. The Cougars built a 24-0 lead early in the fourth quarter thanks to a physical defense that harassed Sam Levin into mistakes before he exited with an injury, a final blow to any Sun Devil comeback hopes. Don't get distracted by the slight comeback from Jeff Sims, for it was Jeff Sims. ASU's sloppy showing, a fumble with 12 penalties and 2 missed field goals, and don't forget the targeting ejection, sealed their fate and ended their hopes for repeating last year's Big 12 run. For Houston, the win was their first road victory over a ranked team since 2017, their 3rd straight overall, and one that pushed them into the AP Top 25 for the first time since 2022. Proof that the Fritz rebuild is way ahead of schedule. He's likely already got 10 missed calls in between this result and the release of the video. Okay, looks like Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter's numbers being retired was a little more warranted than I thought. What unfolded in Salt Lake City was nothing short of a back-breaking beatdown, as Utah delivered a historic demolition of Colorado in the most lopsided game in the 72-year history of Rumble on the Rockies. There was a rumble in Deion's pants too. Even before kickoff, they knew they were screwed. Defensive line coach Warren Sapp was seen clowning around with the pylons, but once the game started, only Utah brought any energy. Colorado returned to being the clowns. The Utes scored on their second play from scrimmage and never looked back, racing to a 43-0 halftime lead in a display of total dominance. At one point, Colorado had more points than yards, and they had 0 points. What the shit? Utah piled up 587 total yards, including 422 on the ground, ruthlessly exploiting every defensive weakness. Colorado's offense was lifeless, finishing with just 140 yards as Kaidon Salters struggled mightily before being replaced by Ryan Stubb, who finally found Omarion Miller for the Buffs' lone score late in garbage time. The result marked Deion Sanders' worst loss at Colorado, prompting renewed concern that he may need to step away for his health. Meanwhile, Utah's also become bowl eligible. Reminding everyone that Colorado's slogan is gone. They're not coming, nor will they ever. And that's all for this week. More and more chaos is what we shall be looking for as we head into week 10. Good lord, we're already this far into it? Anyway, here's your weekly dose of crying material. While you're staring in rage, take the moment to subscribe to Squidtard Sports and support the channel by hitting the like. Your view on its own is greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's see who our biggest winners and losers are as we go through the teams going to and away from the postseason. By the skin of their teeth, Western Kentucky kept its postseason streak alive with a wild Tuesday night overtime win over Louisiana Tech, surviving 38-37 in a game that felt straight out of a midweek action reel. But Conference USA is getting closer to that each and every week. The Hilltoppers marched down the field on an 8-play drive in overtime, capped by a walk-off 2-point conversion that sealed the victory and sent Houchin Smith Stadium into chaos, at least as much as could be captured on the grainy phone camera quality review footage officials relied on. With the dramatic win, Western Kentucky became bowl eligible for the 7th straight season, proving once again that no matter the night, the opponent, or the conference chaos, the Hilltoppers just keep finding a way.
All right!
In a game that perfectly fit the Halloween spirit, scary to watch from start to finish, Boise State farted its way past Nevada to become bowl eligible once again. The Blue Horsies leaned on their defense, holding the Wolfpack to just 247 yards of offense or grinding out 308 yards themselves to secure their 3rd straight victory. Maddox the Madman delivered another chaotic performance. Unwatchable football, proving that he's not just a bust, but an explosion of poo-poo. Still as ugly as it was, Boise State got the job done and will be bowling once more, though maybe with fans watching through their fingers.
All right!
In a night that rewrote program history, San Diego State became bowl eligible in empathetic fashion, pitching a shutout over Fresno State, the first time the Bulldogs have ever been blanked in Bulldog Stadium. It was an embarrassing, all-around shit-stained performance from Fresno, but another day of pure defensive domination from the Aztecs, who have now allowed just 37 total points across their 6 wins, including 3 shutouts. No wonder Cal got whooped by this squad earlier in the season. The defense is legit, and San Diego State's path to the postseason has been paved by it. It won't last, but still, good for them. See you in December.
All right!
What a comeback arc for this program. Behind a 4-touchdown performance by Braylon Braxton, Southern Miss rolled past UL Monroe to remain undefeated in Sun Belt play. The Golden Eagles have now won 4 straight, a stunning turnaround after 2 miserable seasons that left fans desperate for life in any capacity. With renewed confidence, an efficient offense, and real momentum, plus a fan base that remembers joy, Southern Miss suddenly looks like a contender, and a 10-win season is well within reach.
All right!
Little surprise, honestly, Troy continues its midseason surge with a 5th straight win, powering past the former team of Billy Napier behind dominant performances from Tucker Kilcrease and Jordan Lovett, who each scored 2 rushing touchdowns. It's a remarkable turnaround from the sluggish start to the year, as the Condoms leaned on their ground game and steady defense to clinch bowl eligibility and reestablish themselves as one of the Sun Belt's most reliable programs. Reliable in the sense that they won't fall to the depths of cupcake status.
All right!
Someone had to fall in this battle of 6 lost losers, as it ended up being Georgia State, whose season continues to spiral in Sunbelt fashion. The game was a defensive rock fight, but the Panthers mounted a dramatic 17-point comeback to briefly take the lead before giving up a late field goal to tie it up at the 4th. A pivotal turnover sealed their fate, and fittingly, Alabama once again beat Georgia. With the loss, Georgia State was officially eliminated from bowl eligibility, a result that, for personal reasons, might I say is a little bit satisfying. I'll never forget what you did. Football valleys can't sink a ship, and Charlotte at least showed the ability to weather the storm on Friday. But from the opening kick, it was clear they never stood a chance against the might of North Texas, who shredded the 49ers defense for an unfathomable 608 yards passing. Every attempt to rally was met with another mean green barrage, and when the dust settled, Charlotte's season had hit rock bottom. That's a lie, but let yourself think it's rock bottom. With the loss, the 49ers were officially eliminated from bowl eligibility, capping off a campaign that somehow kept finding new ways to get worse. Pain for everyone. The Pack has been getting picked off one by one, and their latest loss sealed the deal. Any team that gets blown out by this season's Penn State is doomed from the start, and the Wolfpack's downward spiral shows no signs of slowing down. Chris Ault, the architect of Nevada's glory days, is reportedly displeased with the program's direction. Shocker! Watching as the team has now won just 8 of its last 44 games, a far cry from the proud standard he once set, Ault continues to voice his belief in Jeff Choate, hoping that somehow, someday, the Pack can find its bite again. Not this season, though. Get out of here. Get out! East stands for excruciating football, and Eastern Michigan lived up to it once again in a home loss that officially eliminated the Eagles from bowl eligibility. They battled till the end, somehow showing flashes of grit, but giving up 21 unanswered points doomed any chance to salvage the season. It was another chapter of a string of frustratingly close MAC games that slipped away late, the kind that define programs with expectations on par with Michigan State's these days. For the Eagles, the effort was there, but the results, like the postseason, remain out of reach. And now it's time for Silly Songs with Squidtard, the part of the video where Squidtard sings a silly song. Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, Flame Grilled taste with perfect toppers, I rule this day. Lettuce, mayo, pickle, ketchup, it's okay if I don't want that Impossible or bacon Whopper, any Whopper my way. Rule, you season the day at BK, have it your way. Get out! Alright, now for the added bonus, see if you know the lyrics to this one.
He asked Coach Orgeron, can you save us from this dread? And Coach O rips his shirt off, and this is what he says.